how to stay disciplined, there is a force more powerful than talent, more reliable than luck, more valuable than any inheritance you could receive. It is the force that separates those who dream from those who achieve, those who start from those who finish, those who wish from those who become. This force is discipline, and the most liberating truth you will ever discover is this: discipline is not something you are born with or without. It is something you build, one choice at a time, one day at a time, until it becomes the very foundation of who you are. Right now, in this moment, you stand at a crossroads. Behind you lies a trail of intentions, some fulfilled, many abandoned, resolutions made and broken, goals set and forgotten, plans that dissolved the moment discomfort arrived or distraction beckoned. You know this pattern. Everyone does. It is the human condition to want one thing and do another, to value the future in theory, while choosing immediate comfort in practice. But you are here because something in you refuses to accept this as your permanent state. Something in you recognizes that there is another way. Imagine waking tomorrow as someone different. Not fundamentally transformed overnight, but shifted in a crucial way. You wake as someone who does what they say they will do, someone who follows through, someone whose word to themselves is sacred and unbreakable. How would that change your life? What would become possible if you could trust yourself completely, knowing that when you commit to something, it will happen regardless of how you feel in the moment? This is not fantasy. This is the life that discipline creates. And discipline is not what you think it is. It is not grinding through misery. It is not white-knuckling your way through existence. It is not denying yourself all pleasure or joy. True discipline is something far more profound and far more practical. It is the ability to align your actions with your intentions. It is the capacity to choose consciously rather than react automatically. It is the power to do what serves your future self, even when your present self wants something else entirely. The person who masters discipline does not become rigid or joyless. They become free, free from the tyranny of impulse, free from the prison of procrastination, free from the exhausting cycle of starting and stopping, promising and failing, hoping and disappointing. They gain something most people never experience: the deep satisfaction of becoming who they intended to be rather than settling for who their habits made them. Today, you begin building that freedom, not through some massive effort that burns out in a week, not through punishment or deprivation, but through understanding how discipline actually works, how it is built in the mind and reinforced through action, how small choices compound into extraordinary results over time. You are about to learn something that will change everything if you let it. The only question is whether you will apply it. Everything begins in the mind. Before you ever take action, before your body moves or your hands work, there is a moment of decision in your consciousness. This moment is so brief, so ordinary, that most people never notice it. But this moment is where discipline lives or dies. In that split second between impulse and action, between thinking and doing, you make a choice, and the accumulation of these choices becomes your life. Consider what happens when you hit the snooze button. It seems like nothing. Just 10 more minutes. What harm could it do? But here is what actually happened. Your mind generated a desire for comfort. Your body felt the warmth of the bed, and in that moment a small voice said you should get up as planned. Another voice said you could stay. And you chose. You made a decision about which voice to obey. That decision was not really about sleep. It was about whether you are someone who does what they intended or someone who negotiates with themselves until the easy choice wins. Now multiply that moment by every decision you make in a day. What to eat, whether to exercise, how long to work on that project, whether to watch one more episode or read that book, whether to check your phone again or stay focused. Each moment contains the same basic architecture and intention, a temptation to deviate and a choice. Your life is nothing more or less than the sum of these choices. And discipline is the practiced ability to make choices that serve your stated goals rather than your momentary feelings. But here is what makes this challenging. Your brain was not designed for discipline. It was designed for survival in an environment of scarcity where immediate reward meant staying alive and delayed gratification often meant being dead before the reward arrived. Your neural wiring pushes you toward the certain and immediate over the uncertain and distant. This is not a flaw. It is biology. But it means that discipline requires working with your brain's natural tendencies rather than expecting yourself to overcome them through willpower alone. Willpower is a limited resource. It depletes throughout the day as you make decisions and resist temptations. This is why you might resist the donut in the morning, but give in to the ice cream at night. Not because you are weak, but because your willpower tank has been drained by 1,000 small resistances throughout the day. The person who relies solely on willpower to maintain discipline will always fail eventually. They are fighting an unwinnable war. The solution is not more willpower. It is better systems. It is habits that remove the need for constant decision making. It is environments that support your goals rather than undermine them. It is rituals that carry you through the difficult moments when willpower fails. Discipline becomes sustainable when it becomes automatic, when the right choice is also the easy choice, because you have structured your life to make it so. Think about habits for a moment. A habit is a behavior that has been repeated so many times that it becomes unconscious. You do not decide to brush your teeth each morning. You do not weigh the pros and cons. You just do it because it is what you do. The action is hardwired into your routine. This is the power you must harness. When discipline becomes habit, it stops requiring effort. It becomes simply who you are and what you do. But habits do not form through dramatic gestures or heroic efforts. They form through consistent repetition of small actions over extended periods. This is the secret that most people miss. They try to overhaul their entire life in one weekend. They commit to waking at 5, exercising 2 hours, eating perfectly, working productively, and meditating daily. And by Wednesday, they have abandoned all of it because the change was too large, too sudden, too unsustainable. Real discipline is built through micro-actions. Not the grand gesture, but the tiny choice repeated until it becomes automatic. Want to become someone who exercises? Start by putting on workout clothes at the same time each day. That is all. Just put them on. Do not worry about the workout itself. Build the habit of the preparation. Once that becomes automatic, once your body moves into workout clothes without debate, then you add the next micro-action. You walk to your workout space. Then you do 5 minutes. Then 10. Each step builds on the previous. Each habit reinforces the next until exercise is not something you do, but something you are. This is how transformation happens. Not through revolution, but through evolution. Not through massive change, but through small change compounded over time. The math is simple. 1% improvement each day compounds into enormous transformation over a year. But 1% is barely noticeable. It requires faith to believe that such small actions matter. Yet they are the only thing that matters because they are the only thing sustainable. Let me tell you about a man named David. He was ordinary in every way. Average intelligence, average income, average abilities. He worked a job he tolerated but did not love, lived in a small apartment, carried extra weight he had been meaning to lose for years. At 35, he looked at his life and realized he was exactly where he had been at 30, and 25 before that. Nothing was getting better. Nothing was progressing. He was stuck in a cycle of vague intentions that never materialized into action. One night, after another day of promising himself he would start making changes tomorrow, David had a realization. Tomorrow never comes. There is only today, and today he always chose comfort over effort. He decided to try something different, not a massive overhaul, not a complete life transformation, just one thing. He would make his bed every morning, immediately upon waking, before his mind could negotiate. It seemed absurd. How could making a bed change anything? But David committed. For 30 days, no matter how he felt, no matter what else happened, he made his bed. The first week was harder than he expected. His mind generated dozens of reasons why it did not matter, why he could skip today. But he did it anyway. By week 3, something shifted. Making the bed had become automatic. More importantly, he had proven something to himself. He could commit to something and follow through. He was someone who kept promises to himself. That small proof of capability became the foundation for everything that followed. After 30 days of making his bed, David added a second commitment. 5 minutes of stretching after making the bed. The two actions linked together, one triggering the next. Another 30 days, another habit locked in. Then he added a brief walk. Then 10 minutes of reading before work. Then he eliminated social media before 9 a.m., each habit tiny, each one sustainable, each one building on the previous. Within 18 months, David's life was unrecognizable, not because of any single dramatic change, but because of dozens of small habits that had compounded. He had lost 40 pounds through incremental improvements to diet and movement. He had been promoted because his morning routine included focused work on skill development before his workday even started. He had read 50 books because 10 minutes a day adds up. He had started a side business that grew from 15 minutes of daily work into something substantial. But here is what mattered most to David. He had become someone he trusted, someone he respected. The vague dissatisfaction that had haunted him for years had dissolved because he was no longer abandoning himself. Every day he was keeping the promises he made. His self-esteem was not based on affirmations or positive thinking. It was based on evidence. Evidence that he was disciplined, that he followed through, that he was reliable to himself. This is the real gift of discipline, not the external results, though those come, but the internal transformation, the shift from someone who hopes to someone who does, from someone who tries to someone who commits, from someone drifting to someone directed. Now consider another story, this one about a woman named Elena. She had achieved conventional success. Good career, financial stability, respected in her field. But she felt scattered, reactive, constantly behind. Her days were spent responding to whoever shouted loudest, whatever crisis seemed most urgent. She worked long hours but never felt productive. She was busy but not effective, exhausted but not accomplished. Elena recognized that she had no discipline around her attention. She let email interrupt her thoughts dozens of times an hour. She let her phone dictate her priorities. She started projects she never finished because something else would grab her focus. Her lack of discipline was not about laziness. She worked harder than most people. It was about direction. She was putting immense energy into motion without progress. So Elena implemented what she called non-negotiables. These were rules about how she would manage her attention and energy that were absolute. No exceptions, no matter what. Her first non-negotiable was simple. No phone for the first hour after waking. That hour was hers for movement, thought, preparation. The phone could wait. Everything could wait. She was establishing who was in control. The first morning was torture. Her hand reached for the phone automatically. The anxiety of missing something felt overwhelming, but she held firm. She sat with the discomfort, observing how powerful the habit had become, how much control she had surrendered. By the end of the first week, the anxiety had lessened. By the end of the month, she could not imagine starting her day any other way. That hour had become sacred. In it, she planned her day with intention, exercised her body, prepared her mind. She entered her workday from a place of strength rather than reaction. Elena added more non-negotiables gradually. 3 hours of deep work each morning, phone off, door closed, fully focused on her highest priority project. No meetings before 11. Email checked twice daily at scheduled times, not continuously. Evening technology curfew at 8. Weekend mornings protected for rest and reflection. Each rule was a boundary that protected what mattered from the constant invasion of what was merely urgent. The transformation in her effectiveness was dramatic. Projects that used to take months got completed in weeks because she had protected time for deep focus. Her stress plummeted because she was no longer living in reactive chaos. Her sleep improved because her evenings belonged to wind, down rather than stimulation. Most importantly, she felt in control of her life again. She was choosing how to spend her finite attention and energy rather than letting others choose for her. Both David and Elena discovered the same truth from different angles. Discipline is not about doing more. It is about being intentional with what you do. It is about deciding what matters and protecting it fiercely from everything that does not. It is about recognizing that you cannot be disciplined in everything simultaneously. So you must choose your battlegrounds wisely. Let us go deeper into the mechanics of building discipline in your own life. The foundation is clarity. You cannot be disciplined toward a vague aspiration. The mind needs specificity. Not I want to be healthy, but I will walk for 20 minutes every morning at 6:30. Not I should be more productive, but I will work on my primary project from 8 to 11 without interruption. Vague intentions generate vague results. Specific commitments generate specific outcomes. So begin by defining your non-negotiables. What are the 3 to 5 behaviors that, if done consistently, would transform your life? Not 20. 3 to 5. This is crucial. Your discipline is finite. Spread it across too many areas and you have discipline nowhere. Concentrate it on a few crucial behaviors and you become unstoppable in those domains. Choose these non-negotiables based on leverage. What actions done daily compound into significant long-term results? Physical movement. Focused work on your most important project. Time invested in relationships that matter. Learning and skill development. These are high leverage behaviors. Checking social media is not. Watching television is not. Most of what fills the typical day is low leverage activity that feels busy but generates no meaningful progress. Once you have defined your non-negotiables, build them into rituals. Rituals are more powerful than goals because rituals are actions while goals are merely destinations. A ritual does not care about your motivation. It does not negotiate based on your feelings. It simply happens because it is what you do at this time in this context. The ritual carries you through the resistance that would stop you if you were relying on decision making in the moment. Morning rituals are particularly powerful because they establish the tone for your entire day. Win the morning and you have momentum. Lose the morning and you are recovering for the rest of the day. Your morning ritual should include activities that strengthen your physical, mental, and emotional state. Movement to energize your body. Stillness or reflection to center your mind. Planning to clarify your intention for the day. These need not take hours. Even 30 minutes of intentional morning ritual creates enormous dividends throughout your day. Evening rituals are equally important because they determine the quality of your rest and recovery. The person who scrolls their phone until they pass out exhausted is not recovering effectively. They are simply collapsing. An evening ritual that includes disconnection from technology, reflection on the day, preparation for tomorrow, and activities that genuinely calm your nervous system sets you up for restorative sleep and a strong start the next morning. Between these bookends, your day needs structure, not rigid scheduling of every moment, but clear boundaries around your high-priority work. The disciplined person protects their focus time the way a guard protects a treasure, because focus time is your most valuable resource. In focused time, you produce meaningful work. In distracted time, you produce busy work. The difference in long-term outcomes is enormous. But discipline is not just about doing. It is also about not doing. It is about the temptations you resist, the distractions you refuse, the easy paths you do not take. This is where most people fail. They can start things. They struggle to sustain things because they have not developed the capacity to sit with discomfort. Discomfort is the price of discipline, every single time. When the alarm sounds and you want to stay in bed, getting up is uncomfortable. When you are hungry and you have committed to certain eating patterns, resisting temptation is uncomfortable. When you are tired but you have work left to do, continuing is uncomfortable. The undisciplined person sees discomfort as a sign they should stop. The disciplined person sees discomfort as a sign they are doing exactly what they need to do. You must reframe your relationship with discomfort. It is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It is the space between who you are and who you are becoming. Growth lives in discomfort. Transformation requires discomfort. If you are always comfortable, you are not progressing. So when discomfort arrives, you learn to recognize it as evidence that you are on the right path. This does not mean seeking suffering for its own sake. It means accepting that meaningful achievement requires pushing past the point where you want to quit. The writer who stops when writing feels hard never completes a book. The entrepreneur who gives up when the business becomes challenging never builds anything substantial. The athlete who quits when training hurts never reaches their potential. Discipline is the willingness to continue past the comfort zone into the growth zone and stay there long enough for adaptation to occur. Mental techniques can support you in these moments. When temptation arrives, delay rather than deny. Tell yourself you can have that distraction in 15 minutes. You can quit in an hour. You can stop tomorrow. This removes the finality that triggers resistance. Often by the time 15 minutes passes, the temptation has faded and you continue naturally. You have not wrestled with willpower. You have simply outlasted the impulse. Another technique is the 10-minute rule. When you do not want to do something you have committed to, tell yourself you will do it for just 10 minutes. You can quit after 10 minutes if you want. But you must start. Almost always starting is the hardest part. Once you are in motion, continuing is easier than starting. Those 10 minutes become 20, then an hour, and you complete what you intended because you removed the barrier to beginning. Visualization serves discipline by connecting your present action to your future outcome. When you do not want to exercise, you visualize your future self months from now stronger and healthier because you did not skip today. When you do not want to work on your project, you visualize your future self having completed it, enjoying the results that came from today's effort. You make the abstract concrete, the distant immediate, the long-term visceral. But perhaps the most powerful technique is identity shift. Most people try to change their behavior while maintaining their identity. They see themselves as an undisciplined person trying to do disciplined things. This creates constant internal conflict. Your behaviors will always align with your identity eventually. If you see yourself as lazy, you will act lazy no matter how many times you try to change. If you see yourself as someone who quits, you will quit. So you must shift the identity first, or at least simultaneously with the behavior. You become someone who exercises by exercising yes, but also by telling yourself, I am someone who exercises. You become disciplined by acting disciplined and claiming the identity. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you cast a vote for this new identity. Every time you honor your word to yourself, you strengthen the belief that this is who you are. Your identity is not fixed. It is fluid, constantly being reinforced or revised by your actions. The undisciplined identity you may carry now was built through years of evidence of undisciplined behavior. The disciplined identity you want is built the same way, through accumulating evidence of disciplined behavior. This is not fake it until you make it. This is recognizing that you become what you repeatedly do, and claiming that identity consciously rather than letting it form unconsciously. Accountability accelerates this process. When you commit publicly to someone else, you add social pressure to internal intention. You do not want to disappoint others. You do not want to be seen as unreliable. This external pressure supports you when internal motivation wanes. Find an accountability partner, someone pursuing their own discipline, and check in regularly. Not to judge each other, but to witness each other's efforts. Knowing someone will ask if you did what you said you would do changes your behavior in the moment of temptation. Self-accountability is also essential. This means reflection and honest assessment. At the end of each day, review your non-negotiables. Did you do them? If yes, acknowledge yourself. Let yourself feel the satisfaction of integrity. If no, investigate without judgment. What happened? What interfered? What can you adjust to make success more likely tomorrow? This is not about shame. It is about learning and adjusting. Tracking creates visibility. What gets measured gets managed. Keep a simple log of your key behaviors. Check marks on a calendar. Notes in a journal. An app if that works for you. The specific method matters less than the consistency of recording. When you track, you become aware. You see patterns. You notice that you always skip your routine on Tuesdays and can investigate why. You see that you have completed your commitment 7 days out of 30, and feel the pride of that consistency. But here is the crucial insight that changes everything. Discipline is not restriction. It is not punishment. It is not deprivation. Discipline is freedom. This seems paradoxical until you understand the mechanics. Every moment you lack discipline, you are a slave to impulse. You are not free to choose your actions. You are compelled by whatever feeling is strongest in the moment. Hunger controls you. Fatigue controls you. Distraction controls you. Impulse is not freedom. It is bondage to your most primitive drives. True freedom comes from the ability to choose based on values rather than feelings. The disciplined person can be hungry and still eat according to their nutritional intentions, can be tired and still complete their important work, can be distracted and still maintain focus. They are free from the tyranny of momentary impulse. They possess sovereignty over their own actions. This sovereignty compounds into life sovereignty. The disciplined person shapes their circumstances through consistent action. The undisciplined person is shaped by their circumstances because they cannot sustain the action necessary to change them. Over months and years, this difference creates entirely different lives. Two people with identical starting points end up in completely different places based solely on discipline. One builds, one drifts, one becomes, one remains. The person who masters discipline also gains time. This seems counterintuitive. Discipline feels like it takes time, but the opposite is true. The disciplined person accomplishes in focused hours what takes the undisciplined person weeks of distracted effort. The disciplined person avoids problems that consume enormous time to fix. They maintain their health, so they do not lose years to preventable illness. They maintain their relationships, so they do not lose time to conflict and drama. They maintain their finances, so they do not lose time to crisis and stress. Discipline is the ultimate life hack. not in the sense of taking shortcuts, but in the sense of maximizing return on invested time and energy. Every disciplined action is leverage. It is a small effort that generates disproportionate results. 10 minutes of planning saves hours of confused wandering. 30 minutes of daily focus on a key skill transforms your capabilities in a year. 20 minutes of physical movement daily prevents decades of health decline. The undisciplined person is always busy but rarely effective because their energy scatters in 1,000 directions without sustained focus. The disciplined person appears to accomplish impossible amounts because they concentrate their energy on few high leverage actions repeated consistently. This is not about working more hours. It is about making the hours you work count for more. Now let us turn to application. How do you take these principles and embed them into your daily existence? You begin tomorrow morning, not Monday, not next month, not when conditions are perfect. Tomorrow, because every day you delay is another day of evidence that you are someone who delays. You break that pattern by starting before you feel ready. Tomorrow morning, wake at your intended time. No snooze, no negotiations. The alarm sounds, you rise. In that moment, you establish that you are someone who does what they intend. Before looking at your phone, before engaging with anyone else's agenda, you execute your morning ritual, even if it is just 10 minutes right now. Movement, stillness, intention. Whatever you have decided comprises your morning foundation. After your morning ritual, you identify your primary objective for the day. What is the one thing that, if completed, would make today meaningful? Not 10 things. One thing. This is your non-negotiable for the day. You protect time for this before anything else. You do not check email first. You do not respond to messages first. You do your one thing while your mind is fresh and your willpower is full. Throughout the day, you practice micro-choices. Every moment of temptation is a repetition in your discipline training. The phone calls to you. You delay checking it. The snack tempts you outside your eating window. You wait. The conversation invites you to gossip or complain. You decline. Each choice strengthens the neural pathway of discipline. Each choice is a vote for your new identity. In the evening, you implement your wind down ritual. You disconnect from work and technology at your predetermined time. You reflect on your day, acknowledging what you accomplished and what you learned. You prepare for tomorrow so you can start strong. You engage in genuinely restful activities, not just passive consumption. You go to sleep at a consistent time because you know that discipline tomorrow starts with recovery tonight. You do this tomorrow. Then you do it the day after. Not perfectly, not without struggle, but you do it. When you skip something, you do not collapse into catastrophic thinking and abandon everything. You simply resume the next day. One failure does not erase the pattern of successes. You are building a trend, not achieving perfection. Each week you review. What worked? What did not? What obstacles appeared? How can you adjust your systems to make discipline easier? You treat this as an experiment you are refining rather than a test you are passing or failing. Your goal is sustainable progress, not heroic perfection. You also practice delayed gratification deliberately. You take things you enjoy and schedule them as rewards for disciplined action rather than allowing them on demand. This trains your brain that good things come after effort, not instead of effort. You watch your favorite show after your workout, not before. You check social media after completing your focused work, not during. You are programming your reward system to support your goals rather than undermine them. You surround yourself with people who value discipline, not to judge those who do not, but because environment shapes behavior powerfully. When everyone around you is undisciplined, maintaining discipline requires constant resistance. When your social circle includes disciplined people, discipline becomes normalized. Their standards become your standards. Their consistency inspires your consistency. You also eliminate or minimize exposure to temptation while your discipline is developing. The person trying to change their eating does not keep junk food in the house. The person building a focused practice does not work with their phone on the desk. You design your environment for success rather than expecting yourself to overcome poor design through willpower alone. As months pass, something remarkable happens. The discipline that once required tremendous effort becomes relatively effortless. Not because you have infinite willpower now, but because you have built habits that carry you. The behaviors that were once decisions have become defaults. You do not debate exercising. You just exercise because that is what you do at this time. You do not struggle with focus. You just focus because you have trained your attention through consistent practice. This is when discipline transforms from something you do into something you are. You have become a disciplined person, not in all areas. Perhaps you focused on health and work and let other areas remain loose. That is fine. You have proven to yourself that you can be disciplined. That capability can extend to any area you choose to apply it to next. But even at this stage, vigilance matters. Discipline is not something you achieve once and then coast on forever. It is something you maintain through continued practice. Life will throw challenges that disrupt your routines. Travel, illness, crisis, major transitions. When these come, you do not expect yourself to maintain perfect consistency. You accept that disruption happens, and you focus on returning to your practices as quickly as possible after the disruption passes. The disciplined person is not someone who never breaks routine. They are someone who always returns to routine. They are not someone who never fails. They are someone who never quits. The distinction is everything. Failure is an event. Quitting is an identity. You will fail sometimes. You will not quit because you are not someone who quits. This identity, disciplined and persistent, becomes your greatest asset. It serves you in every domain of life. In your career, discipline means you complete what others start. In your relationships, discipline means you show up consistently rather than sporadically. In your health, discipline means you invest in prevention rather than paying for cure. In your finances, discipline means you build wealth through patient accumulation rather than seeking shortcuts. Everything worthwhile requires discipline. There are no exceptions. You cannot have the body you want without the discipline of movement and nutrition. You cannot have the career you want without the discipline of skill development and focused work. You cannot have the relationships you want without the discipline of attention and presence. You cannot have the financial security you want without the discipline of earning more than you spend and investing the difference. Discipline is the gateway to every desirable outcome. And the beautiful truth is that discipline in one area strengthens discipline in all areas. The person who develops discipline through physical training finds that discipline available for their work. The person who builds discipline in their finances finds that discipline transfers to their health. Discipline is a general capacity that, once developed, serves you everywhere. So you stand again at the choice point. You can close this experience and return to the familiar patterns, the comfortable drift, the cycle of intention without execution. Or you can decide right now that you are someone who is disciplined, not perfectly, not in all things, but fundamentally, essentially, in the areas that matter most to your future. The choice is simple, but not easy. Simple because it is just a decision followed by action. Not easy because it requires doing what is hard when what is easy is always available. But consider the alternative. Consider what your life looks like 5 years from now if you continue your current patterns. No judgment, just honest projection. Are you moving toward what you want or away from it? Now consider what your life looks like 5 years from now if you become disciplined starting tomorrow. If you identify your non-negotiables and protect them fiercely. If you build rituals that carry you through resistance. If you choose long-term benefit over short-term comfort consistently. Can you see the difference? Can you feel how dramatically different those two futures are? That difference is created by discipline, and discipline starts with one choice. Then another, until the choices become habits, and the habits become identity, and the identity becomes destiny. You are capable of this. Not because you are special or gifted, but because you are human and humans can train themselves to do difficult things through repetition and commitment. The path is clear. The method is proven. The only variable is you, your willingness, your commitment, your decision to become someone who does what they intend rather than someone who merely wishes. Make that decision now, not as a feeling, as a commitment. A commitment you will honor one day at a time, one choice at a time, one action at a time. Go forward with clarity. You know what discipline is and how it is built. You know it starts small and compounds over time. You know it requires consistency more than intensity. You know it transforms you from someone drifting to someone directed. You know it is the foundation of every achievement worth having. Tomorrow morning, you begin. You rise at your intended time. You execute your ritual. You do your one important thing, and you do it again the next day, and the day after. Not perfectly, not without struggle, but you do it. And in doing it, you become someone who does it. Someone disciplined, someone reliable to yourself. Someone building the future you actually want rather than settling for the one your impulses create. This is your moment. This is your opportunity. This is when you transform from someone who understands discipline to someone who embodies it. Take it. Start tomorrow and watch as your entire life reorganizes itself around the foundation of your consistent, disciplined action. You will not recognize yourself a year from now, and that stranger you become will thank you for the choice you made today.